Life can change in a matter of seconds. That's exactly what happened on a Thursday afternoon when Patrick arrived home early and witnessed a scene that would forever shatter the image he had of his own family. The 48-year-old businessman, owner of one of the most prosperous construction companies in the country, had always believed that money could buy security, comfort, and most importantly, trustworthy people to care for what he loved most: his daughter, Olivia. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you are watching us from. 8-year-old Olivia was born with Down syndrome and from a young age faced the challenges of a world that wasn't always prepared to accept her. After the death of her biological mother when the girl was just 3, Patrick dove into his work to escape the pain, leaving his daughter's care to nannies and staff. That's how he met Rebecca, a 35-year-old woman who was elegant and seemed affectionate, who won not only his heart, but also his trust when she appeared to accept Olivia as her own daughter. What Patrick didn't know was that behind that charming smile was a cold and calculating woman who saw the girl as nothing more than an obstacle to her plans for a luxurious life with her millionaire husband. It was Jane, a 34-year-old single mother and former cleaner hired as a nanny, who became the only shield between Olivia and the silent cruelty happening inside that mansion. Could a person hide such malice for so long? And how far would a nanny go to protect a child who wasn't her own, but who she loved like a daughter? The answer to those questions was about to explode in a way that no one, not even Patrick, could have imagined. The wedding of Patrick and Rebecca took place 2 years after his first wife's death in a discreet but luxurious ceremony at the family's farm chapel. Olivia, then 5, was the flower girl carrying the rings on a small white satin pillow. The photos showed a perfect family: the successful businessman, the radiant new wife, and the smiling girl between them. In the first few months, Rebecca seemed genuinely committed to winning Olivia's affection. She would take the girl shopping, buy her expensive clothes, and enroll her in extracurricular activities. Patrick felt relieved to have finally found someone who could give his daughter the maternal love she so desperately needed. Work consumed him completely again, with constant trips to inaugurate new projects and meetings that extended late into the night. It was during one of these long absences that Rebecca began to reveal her true colors. It started subtly, with harsh comments about Olivia's behavior when the girl spilled juice on the table or took longer to understand a simple instruction. "You need to pay more attention, Olivia. Normal people don't do these things," she would always say when she was sure Patrick wasn't around. Rebecca's patience gradually dwindled. The comments turned into shouts, and the shouts into disproportionate punishments. Olivia was forced to stay in her room for hours without dinner for inappropriate behaviors, which were often just natural characteristics of a child with Down syndrome. The girl, who was once cheerful and communicative, began to become withdrawn, crying for any reason and developing inexplicable fears. Patrick noticed that something was different with his daughter, but Rebecca always had a ready explanation. "It's just a phase. Honey, a special needs child is like that, very sensitive. I'm doing the best I can, but it's not easy," she'd say. And he believed her because he wanted to believe her, because it was more convenient to trust his wife than to face the possibility that he had made a terrible mistake by entrusting Olivia to her care. The final straw came on a Saturday morning when Olivia woke up sick with a high fever and vomiting. Rebecca was irritated because she would have to cancel a lunch with friends at the ET club. "What an inconvenient child," she muttered, while giving the girl medicine with unnecessary brutality. "She always finds a way to ruin my plans." Olivia cried even more, not understanding why she was being treated with such coldness, especially when she needed affection the most. It was at that moment that Patrick decided he needed professional help, not just another employee, but someone specialized who could give Olivia the specific care she required. Rebecca pretended to support the decision, but inside she was boiling with rage. A new nanny meant a witness inside the house, someone who could closely observe how she treated her stepdaughter. Jane arrived at the mansion on a Monday morning, carrying only a small suitcase and a heart full of hope. A single mother of a 12-year-old boy, she had lost her cleaning job during the pandemic and was desperate to start over. The opportunity to work as a nanny for a wealthy family seemed like the answer to her prayers, a chance to provide a better life for the son she was raising alone. During the interview, Patrick explained Olivia's special needs in detail, talking about her routine of therapies, medications, and specific care. Jane listened attentively, asking relevant questions and showing a surprising knowledge of Down syndrome. What she didn't reveal was that her own nephew had the same condition, and she knew exactly how to recognize the signs of a child being well treated or mistreated. Rebecca watched the conversation with a forced smile, already mentally planning how to make the new employee's life a living hell until she quit. "Jane seems very qualified," she said sweetly to her husband, while secretly hoping the woman would be another incompetent nanny who wouldn't last more than a few weeks. In the first few days, Jane just observed. She saw how Rebecca's behavior changed completely when Patrick was present, becoming sweet and attentive with Olivia, only to return to being cold and impatient as soon as he left. The girl, in turn, showed clear signs of stress. She constantly chewed her nails, had frequent nightmares, and startled whenever Rebecca approached. The first indirect confrontation happened during breakfast. Olivia spilled a glass of milk on the table, a completely normal accident for any child. Rebecca exploded in disproportionate fury, yelling that the girl was clumsy, incompetent, and didn't pay attention to anything. Jane intervened gently, cleaning the table and calming Olivia with sweet words, explaining that accidents happen and it was no reason to be sad. "Thank you for your help, Jane," Rebecca said through clenched teeth, "but I know how to raise my daughter." The emphasis on the word "my" was like a shot, making it clear that a silent war for Olivia's well-being had begun. Jane didn't reply, just smiled and continued to comfort the girl, but she knew deep down that she would have to be much more than a nanny in that house. And what do you think of this story so far? Leave your opinion in the comments. It's very important to us. The following weeks were a test of endurance for Jane. Rebecca invented unnecessary tasks to keep her busy, constantly changed the house rules, and criticized every small aspect of the nanny's work. But Jane endured everything in silence because she knew Olivia needed her. The girl had quickly grown attached to her new caregiver, who treated her with the affection and patience she didn't receive from her stepmother. During Patrick's absences, Rebecca felt free to show her true face. She spoke to Olivia as if the girl were a burden, constantly compared her to other normal children, and used the girl's condition as a justification for increasingly cruel treatments. "You'll never be like the other kids, Olivia. You have to learn to behave better, or no one will like you," she'd say. Jane mentally documented every episode, every one of Olivia's tears, every cruel word from Rebecca. She knew she would need concrete proof if she wanted to protect the girl, but she also knew she was on dangerous ground. Rebecca had power, money, and her husband's complete trust. Jane was just a nanny, easily replaceable and without the resources to face a legal battle. Winter arrived in full force that year, and with it, a noticeable change in Rebecca's behavior. The mistreatment intensified, as if the cold gave her an excuse to be even crueler. Olivia began to show symptoms of childhood depression, including loss of appetite, constant crying, and nightmares that made her wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Jane tried to talk to Patrick a few times indirectly, mentioning that Olivia seemed sadder lately and might need psychological support. But Rebecca always interfered, explaining that it was just a difficult phase and the girl was adapting to growing up. "Jane worries too much," she'd say with a fake smile. "A special child needs a firm hand, not excessive pampering." The situation reached its limit on a July afternoon when Olivia came home from school crying because she had been excluded from a game by her classmates. Instead of comforting her, Rebecca seized the girl's moment of vulnerability to pour out all her cruelty. "Of course they don't want to play with you, Olivia. You're different, you're slow, you're inconvenient," she said. "You'd better get used to it right now." Jane witnessed everything hidden behind the kitchen door. Seeing Olivia huddled on the couch, sobbing in pain and confusion, was the moment she decided she could no longer remain neutral. No matter the consequences, she would not allow that innocent child to continue to be psychologically destroyed by a woman who should be protecting her. "Olivia, sweetie," Jane approached carefully, ignoring Rebecca's withering glare. "Come with me. We're going to make chocolate chip cookies and talk about how special and wonderful you are." She hugged the girl, who clung to her as if she were a lifeline. "You're not different in a bad way, honey. You're different in a unique and beautiful way. Thank you for staying with us so far. Stay tuned, because the best is yet to come." Rebecca was furious at Jane's insubordination, but she couldn't do much at that moment without appearing too cruel. She waited until the nanny had put Olivia to bed, and then went on the offensive. "I need to talk to you, Jane. I think you're overstepping some boundaries here. It's not your place to question how I raise my daughter." "With all due respect, Mrs. Rebecca," Jane replied calmly but firmly, "my job is to care for Olivia's well-being, and an 8-year-old child should never hear that she is inconvenient or that people won't like her. That's not education, it's cruelty." A direct confrontation had been declared. Rebecca realized that Jane was not like the previous nannies who had accepted everything in silence for fear of losing their jobs. This woman was willing to fight for Olivia, and that represented a real threat to her plans. If Jane could influence Patrick and he started to question the version of events she always presented, her entire world of luxury and comfort could collapse. "You're fired," Rebecca said coldly. "I'm going to talk to my husband tonight and explain that your behavior has been inappropriate. Pack your things and leave tomorrow morning." Jane felt her world crashing down. Losing her job meant she couldn't pay her rent or support her son. But looking at the room where Olivia was, sleeping, with tear stains still on her face, made her make the bravest decision of her life. "I will only leave this house if Mr. Patrick personally asks me to go," she said, "and only after he knows everything that happens here when he's not present." The silent war between Jane and Rebecca entered a more dangerous phase. Rebecca knew she needed to act quickly to get rid of the nanny before she could cause any real damage. She began to devise a plan to discredit Jane in Patrick's eyes, inventing situations that would make her seem incompetent or even dangerous to Olivia. The next morning, Rebecca called Patrick, who was in an important meeting with international investors. "Honey, I need to talk to you about Jane. Some things happened yesterday that have me very worried." She invented a story about Jane shouting at Olivia and finding the girl crying after the nanny had been rude to her. Patrick was confused. Jane had always seemed dedicated and affectionate with Olivia, but Rebecca was his wife, the person he trusted most in the world. Why would she lie about something so serious? "Are you sure about this, Rebecca? Jane always seemed very professional to me." "I used to think so too," Rebecca sighed dramatically. "But I think she's going through some personal problems and is taking it out on Olivia. Yesterday, she told the girl that she was hard to handle. Imagine the trauma that can cause a child who is already so fragile." What Rebecca didn't know was that Jane had started documenting everything, not just mentally, but with photos of the bruises Olivia developed after being physically disciplined. She also had audio recordings discreetly made on her phone during the episodes of mistreatment and detailed notes of each incident with the date and time. Jane knew she was playing with fire. If she were discovered, she would not only lose her job, but could also be sued for invasion of privacy. But seeing Olivia wither away day by day, seeing the cheerful and communicative child turn into a scared and withdrawn girl, gave her the necessary courage to continue gathering evidence. The situation became more complicated when Rebecca discovered that Jane had not packed her bags as ordered. "I told you to leave," she said with thinly veiled anger. "Why are you still here?" "Because Mr. Patrick hasn't spoken to me personally yet," Jane responded calmly while combing Olivia's hair for school. "And because this girl needs someone to protect her," she said, looking directly into Rebecca's eyes. Someone who really cares about her. Rebecca realized she was dealing with a stronger adversary than she had imagined. Jane wasn't just an employee desperate for a job. She was a woman with solid moral principles and the courage to defend them. This made her extremely dangerous. During breakfast, Rebecca made sure to play the role of the perfect stepmother in front of Olivia, lavishing the girl with fake affection and exaggerated compliments. "My beautiful princess," she said, kissing the girl's forehead. "Mommy loves you so much." Olivia was confused by the sudden change in behavior, looking at Jane as if to ask if she could trust this sudden affection. Jane watched it all with a heavy heart. She knew it was just an act, and that as soon as they were alone, Rebecca would go back to being cruel. But she also knew she was getting close to having enough evidence to expose the truth. She just needed more time and an opportunity to show everything to Patrick. Rebecca's plan to discredit Jane was intensifying. She began to spread small lies about the nanny to the other household staff, creating an environment of distrust. She told the housekeeper that Jane was stealing food from the pantry and the gardener that she was being rude to the other employees. Olivia's school organized a special presentation for Mother's Day where the children would sing for their families. Olivia had been excited for weeks, rehearsing the song at home and talking about how she wanted her mommy Rebecca to be proud of her. Jane felt her heart break to see how the girl was still trying to win the love of a woman who despised her. On the day of the presentation, Rebecca showed up dressed like a queen, all made up and smiling for the other mothers. Olivia looked for her in the auditorium before going on stage, running to hug her. "Mommy, you came. You came to see me sing." The girl's pure joy was moving, but Rebecca just forced a smile and said, "Of course. I came, dear. Now go up there and don't embarrass me." The presentation was beautiful. Olivia sang from the heart, even when she forgot some words and needed help from her classmates. Her limitations were evident, but her joy and effort were genuine. Some mothers in the audience were moved to see the girl's dedication. Rebecca, however, was furious. She could see the other mothers whispering and knew they were commenting on Olivia's imperfect performance. In her twisted mind, the girl had truly embarrassed her publicly, confirming all her prejudices about having a disabled child in the family. When they got home, Rebecca exploded. "What a shameful presentation, Olivia. You forgot the lyrics. You sang out of tune. You were out of rhythm. The other mothers felt sorry for me for having to put up with this." Olivia began to cry, not understanding why she was being punished for something she thought she had done well. Jane, who had stayed home preparing a special snack to celebrate the presentation, witnessed everything. She couldn't contain herself any longer. "Stop that right now," she shouted, positioning herself between Rebecca and Olivia. "She's an 8-year-old child with Down syndrome. She did the best she could and it was beautiful." "How dare you yell at me in my own house?" Rebecca was beside herself. "Who do you think you are to give me orders? You're just a nanny, an employee." "I'm the only person in this house who actually cares about this child," Jane retorted, trembling with anger and indignation. "You're a cruel, heartless woman who is destroying an innocent girl just because she doesn't fit into your perfect family fantasy." Olivia watched the confrontation, terrified, not understanding why the two most important women in her life were fighting because of her. She began to cry even harder, which made Jane immediately calm down and go comfort her. Rebecca left the room furiously, grabbed the phone and called Patrick. "You need to come home right now," she said with a voice trembling with fake rage. "Jane attacked Olivia and verbally assaulted me. I don't feel safe with her in the house anymore." Patrick, who was at an important construction site on the other side of town, felt his blood run cold. "What do you mean by attacked Olivia? Did Jane hurt my daughter?" he asked. "She yelled at the girl, scared her a lot. Olivia is here crying, traumatized. Please come quickly. I need you to get this woman out of our house before something worse happens." Jane didn't know about the call. She was in Olivia's room, consoling the girl and trying to delicately explain that sometimes adults get stressed and say things they shouldn't. "You were wonderful at the presentation, my love. You sang from the heart, and that's what matters." "Why was Mommy Rebecca mad at me, Auntie Jane?" Olivia asked with eyes red from crying. "I tried to sing right. I tried not to make a mistake." Jane felt a deep revolt growing inside her. How could a woman be so cruel to a child so pure and loving? "You didn't do anything wrong, Olivia. Nothing. Sometimes grown-ups get mad for reasons that have nothing to do with you, but I want you to know that you are special, that you are loved, and that no matter what happens, that will never change." Patrick arrived home like a hurricane. Rebecca had spent the last hour preparing for the confrontation, creating increasingly dramatic scenarios about what had supposedly happened. When he entered, she ran into his arms, pretending to be in shock. "Thank goodness you're here," she sobbed theatrically. Jane completely lost it, yelled at Olivia, said she was a burden, that no one should have to put up with a child like that. Poor Olivia was terrified. Patrick was confused. That didn't match the woman he knew, but Rebecca seemed genuinely shaken. "Where are they now?" "In Olivia's room. Jane is there pretending that nothing happened, trying to manipulate the girl into not telling you the truth." Patrick went up the stairs with determination, but stopped when he heard voices coming from his daughter's room. It was Jane singing a lullaby softly and Olivia laughing. They didn't seem like two people who had just gone through a trauma. He approached the ajar door and observed the scene. Jane was sitting on the bed with Olivia in her lap, showing her a storybook. The girl seemed calm and happy, very different from the traumatized child Rebecca had described. "Auntie Jane," Olivia said softly, "are you going to leave like the other nannies?" "Why do you ask that, sweetie?" "Because when Mommy Rebecca gets mad at the nannies, Daddy sends them away. And I don't want you to leave. You're the only one who makes me feel safe." Those words hit Patrick like a punch to the stomach. Olivia felt safe with Jane. And what did she mean by the other nannies? He remembered that he had indeed fired several nannies in the previous year, always based on Rebecca's complaints about inappropriate behavior. Jane noticed that someone was listening and looked toward the door. Her eyes met Patrick's, and she saw a confusion in them that wasn't there before. "Mr. Patrick," she said softly, making Olivia look too. "Daddy!" Olivia ran to hug him. "You came home early today." Patrick hugged his daughter, carefully observing her behavior. She didn't seem traumatized, scared, or hurt. She just seemed like a child who had cried, but who was now fine. "How was the presentation at school, Princess?" he asked. Olivia's eyes filled with tears again. "I forgot some words to the song, Daddy. Mommy Rebecca said it was shameful." Patrick felt something shift inside him. Rebecca had criticized the presentation of an 8-year-old child with special needs. "I'm sure you were wonderful, Olivia. Daddy is so sorry he couldn't be there." Jane watched the interaction carefully. She could see that Patrick was starting to question the version of events he had received. It was her chance to plant a seed of doubt, but she knew she had to be subtle. "Olivia sang beautifully," she said sincerely. "She rehearsed so much for this presentation. Any parent would be proud to see her effort and dedication." Patrick caught the implicit message. Jane was indirectly saying that he should be proud, not embarrassed. "I'm sure she did," he replied, looking directly into the nanny's eyes. "Jane, can I talk to you downstairs in a few minutes? I need to clarify some things." Jane felt her heart race. This was the moment of truth. Either she would succeed in making Patrick see what was really happening, or she would lose the only chance to protect Olivia. "Of course, Mr. Patrick," she said. "Olivia, how about you stay here drawing while I talk to your daddy?" When they went downstairs, Rebecca was waiting in the living room, still playing the role of the shaken victim. "Honey, you need to get this woman out of our house immediately. I don't feel safe anymore." "Rebecca," Patrick interrupted her with a firmness that surprised her. "Let me talk to Jane first, alone." The conversation between Patrick and Jane took place in his office, a large room with bookshelves and a privileged view of the garden. It was there that he made the most important business decisions, and now he would have to make one of the most important decisions of his personal life. "Jane," he began, still confused by the contradictory versions he had received. "My wife told me there was an incident today, that you were aggressive with Olivia and with her. I need to understand what really happened." Jane took a deep breath. She knew this moment would define not only her future, but, more importantly, Olivia's. "Mr. Patrick, I'm going to be completely honest with you, even though I know I might lose my job. Your wife lied." The silence that followed was tense. Patrick studied Jane's face, looking for signs of falsehood, but found only determination and sincerity. "Explain further." "Olivia came back from the presentation radiant, wanting to tell you how it had been. Your wife greeted her with cruel criticism, saying she had been shameful, that she had embarrassed her. An 8-year-old child, Mr. Patrick, a child who did the best she could." Patrick felt a growing discomfort. That sounded like something Rebecca could actually do, especially when she was irritated. "Go on." "I did intervene, yes. I couldn't stay quiet seeing Olivia being humiliated for something that should have been a source of pride. I argued with your wife," I yelled at her, I admit, "but I never ever was aggressive with Olivia. She is a wonderful child, and I love her as if she were my own daughter." The sincerity in Jane's voice was undeniable. Patrick remembered how Olivia had run happily to Jane when he arrived, how the girl had said she felt safe with her. "Jane, can I ask you a direct question? In your opinion, how does Rebecca treat Olivia when I'm not present?" he asked. Jane knew it was a loaded question. If she told the truth, she could be seen as a resentful employee, trying to cause problems in her boss's marriage. If she lied, she would be betraying Olivia. "Mr. Patrick, can I show you something?" she asked, pulling her phone out of her pocket with trembling hands. "I have recordings, photos. I documented everything because I knew that one day it would be my word against hers, and she has much more power than I do." She paused, looking directly into his eyes. "But you need to understand, I didn't do this to blackmail anyone or cause problems. I did it to protect Olivia." Patrick was silent for a long moment. "Show me," he said. The first recording was devastating. Rebecca's voice echoed through the office, clear and cruel. "Stop crying, Olivia. You're a disgrace, a disappointment. Why can't you be normal like the other kids?" And then Olivia's voice, small and broken. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I'll try to be better." Patrick felt his world fall apart. His legs felt weak, and he had to lean on the table. "When was this?" he asked. "Last week, on Tuesday. You were in the capital for that meeting with the ministry." Jane showed him more files. "There's more, Mr. Patrick, much more." The next recordings were even worse. Rebecca saying that Olivia was a burden, that she got in everyone's way, that it would be better if she disappeared. Patrick heard every word as if they were daggers to his heart. How had he been so blind? How had he not noticed what was happening to his own daughter? "Mr. Patrick," Jane said softly, seeing his state. "I know this is shocking. I know it's hard to believe, but Olivia has been suffering for months. She developed nightmares, panic attacks, lost weight, and all this while your wife plays the perfect stepmother when you are present." Patrick remembered all the signs he had ignored, how Olivia had become more withdrawn, the frequent nightmares, how she flinched when Rebecca approached. He had attributed everything to developmental phases, to normal difficulties of a child with special needs. In fact, his daughter was being psychologically tortured in her own home. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he asked, his voice choked. "I tried, sir, several times, but your wife always had an explanation. Always made me seem like I was exaggerating or had bad intentions, and I'm just a nanny, Mr. Patrick. Who would believe my word against hers?" The office door suddenly opened. Rebecca entered without knocking, irritated by the long conversation. "Patrick, what's taking so long? You should have fired this woman by now and called security to get her out of here." Patrick looked at his wife as if he were seeing her for the first time. The elegant and sophisticated woman who had won his heart now seemed like a monster in disguise. "Rebecca, sit down. We need to talk." "Talk about what?" "This woman has already poisoned your mind with lies, Patrick. She's obviously making up stories to get rid of the blame for what she did today. I heard the recordings, Rebecca." The silence that followed was deafening. Rebecca paled, but quickly tried to compose herself. "What recordings? What are you talking about?" she asked. Jane held up her phone. "The recordings where you call Olivia a disgrace, where you say she should disappear, where you treat her as if she were an animal. It's all here, Mrs. Rebecca, all documented." Rebecca went on the attack like a cornered beast. "This is illegal. You can't record conversations in my house without my permission. I'll sue you for invasion of privacy." "You can sue," Jane replied calmly, "but these recordings will also end up in the hands of Child Protective Services and the local police. Psychological abuse is a crime, Mrs. Rebecca." Patrick slowly stood up, all the accumulated pain and anger finally coming to the surface. "Abuse. Rebecca, you abused my daughter, an 8-year-old helpless child." "Patrick, it's not what you're thinking. I'm just trying to discipline her, teach her limits. You know how difficult it is to deal with a special child. I do the best I can. The best you can is calling my daughter a disgrace, is telling a child with Down syndrome that she should be normal. The best you can do." Patrick's voice was rising. Rebecca realized she was losing control of the situation. "Patrick, you're letting this woman manipulate you. She obviously wants to hurt me. She wants to get me out of the way. Can't you see this is a plan of hers to separate us?" "A plan? A plan that involves months of recordings, of careful documentation. A plan that involves protecting a child from abuse." Patrick was beside himself. "Rebecca, I entrusted my daughter to you. I thought you loved her. I tried to love her, but she's difficult, Patrick. She's not normal. Living with a child like that is—" "Shut up!" Patrick's shout echoed throughout the house. "Don't you dare talk about my daughter like that. Olivia is perfect just the way she is. If anyone here isn't normal, it's you." The atmosphere in the mansion changed completely after the revelation of the recordings. Rebecca, realizing that her facade had been discovered, abandoned any attempt to pretend to be a caring stepmother. Her mask finally fell, revealing the cold and calculating woman she always was. "Fine, Patrick," she said with a coldness that chilled his blood. "You want the truth? The truth is, I never wanted that child in my life. When I married you, I thought it would be temporary, that you would soon realize it would be better for everyone if she went to a specialized institution." Jane was horrified by the cruelty of those words, but remained silent, letting Rebecca hang herself with her own words. "An institution? You wanted me to institutionalize my daughter?" Patrick couldn't believe what he was hearing. "She would be better cared for there by professionals, and we could have a normal life, Patrick. We could travel, go out, have our own family without complications." "Complications? You're talking about my daughter as if she were a problem to be solved." Rebecca realized she had gone too far, but she couldn't stop. The anger of being discovered, of having lost control of the situation, made her say things that would destroy any chance of reconciliation. And isn't she? Look around, Patrick. Look at how many nannies have already passed through this house. Look at how you can't have a normal social life because of her. Your friends avoid visiting us. You can't accept invitations to important events because you always have to think about her first. My friends avoid visiting us because you drive them away. And I refuse invitations because I choose my daughter first, as any father should do. Jane watched the confrontation with a broken heart. She saw years of accumulated pain and resentment finally coming to the surface. But she also saw a father discovering the extent of the abuse his daughter had suffered. "Where is Olivia now?" Patrick asked suddenly, realizing the girl might be hearing the argument. "In her room drawing," Jane answered. "I put on music for her and closed the door. She's not hearing anything." "Good, because now we're going to solve this situation once and for all." Patrick turned to Rebecca. "I want you to get out of my house now." "Get out? Patrick, are you crazy? This is my house too. We're married." "Not for much longer. Tomorrow morning I'm going to see my lawyer to start the divorce process, and you can be sure that these recordings will be attached to the process." Rebecca laughed bitterly. "You think it's going to be that easy? I have rights, Patrick. We have a shared property regime. Remember, I'm going to take half of everything you have. Take it. Take everything if you want. I can earn money again, but my daughter's childhood, the traumas you caused her, I'll never be able to completely fix that." It was at that moment that a frightened little voice echoed from the stairs. "Daddy, why are you yelling?" Everyone turned. Olivia was at the top of the stairs, holding her teddy bear with her eyes wide with fear. Despite the music in the room, the shouts had been too loud not to be heard. Jane was the first to react, quickly going up the stairs to comfort the girl. "Come here, my love. Adults sometimes need to talk about important things, but everything is okay." "Is Mommy Rebecca leaving?" Olivia asked, and there was a mix of fear and relief in her voice that broke Patrick's heart. "Yes, honey," he replied, going up to hug his daughter. "Mommy Rebecca is leaving, but you and I are going to be fine. We have Auntie Jane to take care of us." Olivia looked at Jane with hope. "You're not going to leave too, Auntie Jane? Promise you won't leave me?" Jane looked at Patrick, who nodded. "I promise, Olivia. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to take care of each other, okay?" Rebecca watched the scene with a mixture of anger and contempt. "What a touching scene," she said, sarcastically. "The heroic nanny saving the special child. What a beautiful story to tell your friends, Patrick." "Rebecca," Patrick said with a deadly calm, "get out of my house before I do something I might regret." "Fine, but remember, you chose a disabled child and a nanny instead of a wife who could give you a normal family. I hope you're happy with your choice." She went up to the room, grabbed some clothes, and slammed the door shut, leaving behind a family that was shattered, but finally free from her toxic influence. Olivia snuggled between her father and Jane. "Now we're a family?" she asked with her characteristic innocence. Patrick looked at Jane, the woman who had risked everything to protect his daughter, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. "Yes, Princess. Now we're a family." 3 months passed since Rebecca left the mansion. The house, which had once been a place of tension and fear for Olivia, had been transformed into a true home. Jane was no longer just a nanny. She had become an official part of the family with a new contract that recognized her fundamental role in Olivia's life. Patrick had gone through a profound transformation. Realizing how absent he had been from his daughter's life, he completely reorganized his schedule, delegated more responsibilities to his partners, reduced his travels, and started working from home whenever possible. He wanted to be present for every achievement, every therapy, every important moment in Olivia's life. The divorce process was more complicated than expected. Rebecca tried to question the validity of the recordings, claimed parental alienation, and even tried to reverse the situation, saying that Patrick was being manipulated by Jane. But the evidence was incontestable, and even the judge was shocked by the cruelty of the audios. "I've never seen such a clear case of psychological abuse," the magistrate had commented during one of the hearings. "This child needs protection, and I'm happy to see that the father has taken the necessary measures to ensure her safety." Olivia was flourishing. With Rebecca out of the house, she went back to being the cheerful and communicative child she always was. Her nightmares decreased drastically. She gained weight and started laughing frequently again. The transformation was so visible that even the therapists commented on the girl's exceptional progress. Jane had moved into the mansion permanently, bringing her son, Daniel, to live with them. The 12-year-old boy adapted well to the new house and became a protective older brother for Olivia. The family they formed was different from the conventional, but it was real, based on mutual love and respect. One Saturday morning, Patrick was in the garden watching Olivia and Daniel play in the pool with Jane attentively supervising. It was a scene of domestic peace he never thought would be possible. "Mr. Patrick," Jane approached, still maintaining the formal address even after everything that had happened. "Can I talk to you, Jane?" "I've told you to just call me Patrick. We're family now," he smiled. "What do you want to talk about?" "It's about the future. Olivia is improving a lot, but she still needs specialized care. I thought maybe it was time for us to look for new therapists, maybe even a specialized school." Patrick interrupted her gently. "Jane, you still don't understand, do you? All these decisions are not just mine, they're ours. Olivia has two guardians. Now you and me, your opinions have the same weight as mine." Jane felt her eyes well up with tears. Even after all these months, she was still surprised by the respect and consideration Patrick showed her. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for trusting me." "I should be the one thanking you," Patrick replied. "You saved my daughter, Jane. You risked everything to protect her when I failed as a father. How can I ever repay that? You already have. You gave me a family, a home, a purpose. And most importantly, you gave Olivia the father she always deserved to have." At that moment, Olivia ran to him, dripping with water from the pool and laughing. "Daddy, Auntie Jane, did you see how I managed to swim to the other side all by myself?" "We sure did, Princess," Patrick said, picking her up without caring that he got wet. "I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud too," Jane said, adjusting Olivia's wet hair. "You're getting stronger and braver every day." Olivia hugged them both. "I love you. Thank you for protecting me." Patrick and Jane looked at each other over the girl's head. Both knew that there was still a lot of work ahead, a lot of trauma to heal, a lot of growth to happen. But they also knew that now, finally, Olivia was safe. She was loved. She was protected. A few months later, Patrick made a decision that surprised everyone, including Jane. During a family dinner, he stood up solemnly and made an announcement. "I have something important to say, Jane. I would like you to consider giving me the honor of officially adopting Daniel, and also consider the possibility of, well, making this family official in every way." Jane was in shock. "Patrick, I'm asking you to marry me, Jane. Not out of gratitude, not out of convenience, but because I've learned to love not only the courageous woman who saved my daughter, but the wonderful person you are. Because I want our family to be real in every sense." Olivia clapped, even without fully understanding. What was happening? Daniel smiled happily to see his mother so moved, and Jane, the simple woman who had risked everything for a child who wasn't hers, said yes to the man who had learned to value what really mattered in life. The wedding was simple, an intimate ceremony in the garden of the house, with Olivia as the flower girl and Daniel as the ring bearer. There was no excessive luxury or ostentation. There was just love, gratitude, and the promise that from that day on, Olivia would never be in danger again. And so, a story that began with cruelty and abuse was transformed into a beautiful lesson about courage, protection, and the true meaning of family. Jane was no longer the nanny who protected Olivia from abuse. She was her mother. Patrick was no longer the absent father who didn't see his daughter's suffering. He was a man who had learned that true love sometimes comes from the people we least expect, and that protecting those we love is the greatest responsibility we can have. Olivia grew up in a home full of love, respect, and acceptance. She never again felt like a disgrace or a burden. She felt exactly what she was, a special, unique, and deeply loved child. And Rebecca, she went on with her life, but she never managed to find the happiness she thought money could buy, because there is no wealth in the world that can replace the warmth of a true family, built on love and mutual care. This story teaches us that true heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear nanny uniforms and have enough courage to stand up to those with power, to protect those who have no voice. And that family love has nothing to do with blood or legal documents. It has to do with choice, dedication, and the willingness to fight for the ones we love. What did you think of this story? Leave your opinion in the comments. We want to know if you know of a similar situation or if you have witnessed someone defending a child as Jane did. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more emotional stories like this. Share it with someone who needs to know this story of courage and transformation. And don't forget to watch our next recommended video for more stories that will touch your heart.